Education, Finance, and Policy Division to order. We do have a quorum. Has anyone checked out the minutes and would like to move the minutes for March 19th, 2019?
So move.
Okay, Representative Vang moves the minutes for March 19th, 2009. Is there any discussion? Oh, wait, I want to make sure. March 19th, 2019. What did I say? Oh. Okay, we don't want to go backwards. So is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. And the minutes for March 19th, 2019 are approved. We are going to start. We have a member who's double booked today, so I call that a quality problem. Their bills are getting heard. And so we're going to take him first, and that is Representative Dehn. And I will move House File 706 be laid over for possible inclusion. Welcome to our committee, Representative Dehn.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the public. House File 706 allocates $500,000 in the fiscal year of 2020 and $500,000 in the fiscal year 2021 for the Robert J. Jones Urban Research and Outreach Engagement Center. If you look at your bill, lines 1.11 through 2.2 generally outline the different areas that half of the funding should go to certain program areas. This is a bill that the senator and I, that represents the district, Senator Champion, have talked about. I was around when what's known as UROC was initially established. It was not an easy project to move through the community. There were lots of conversations. There were lots of misunderstanding on what type of things would get done there. For those of you who don't know, that UROC, the Research and Outreach Engagement Center, is a similar model to what Extension does in the rural parts of the state of Minnesota. And this is saying we're a land-grant university that serves the whole state, so wouldn't it make sense to have a center like this in the urban part of the district? So it was located in North Minneapolis to actually engage and reach out to people in the community around issues that tend to be specific to lower income communities and other issues. So we decided that it was time for the university and for some real money to come so that those engagements that I would contend haven't happened at the level that a lot of us were optimistic that it would happen when it came there would actually begin to happen. And one of the things that I want to call your attention to is actually number 2 on line 1.13, creating a mission path for communities of color, indigenous communities, and communities with high poverty. We know that when we look at the number of students enrolled at the University of Minnesota, that the African American numbers are real low. They're nowhere close to the proportion of the population in the state of Minnesota, and definitely not proportional to the population within the metro region. And this is one of those areas that we believe that an institution like this and the engagement center like this should be able to play a large role in moving those numbers so that we're sure that everyone in the state of Minnesota has access to quality education. So that simply is the bill. I think it's a good bill. We'd love to have your support.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from our members? Representative Vang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank you, Representative Dehn, for your work on this bill. I was born in North Minneapolis, and UROC is one of the few fine facilities there, and so I appreciate you bringing this bill forward.
Representative Nornes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Dehn. One basic question, I guess, is how is the university, how are they feeling about your idea? Are they supportive?
Representative Dehn.
Chair Bernardi, Representative Nornes, I've had some conversations, and as of right now, I'm not sure that they're supportive, but I'm also not sure they're against it. I think it's one of those things that this was not an initiative of the university. It was actually an initiative of the legislators that have seen the need for this center to be utilized fuller. I would venture to guess that if you had conversations, they would say this is not one of their priorities. But I would say for the people in the community, it's one of our priorities.
Madam Chair, Representative Dean.
Representative Nornis.
I guess the thing that I can relate to is how you talked about the rural program that the university's had an extension for a long time, and we understand how that works. And so it's easy then to kind of understand what you're attempting to do here in the metro area. And I guess it's certainly a worthwhile idea, and it's up to this committee to figure out if we have a budget, I guess, right?
That's right.
I won't ask about that right now.
Okay,
Sometime soon, though.
right. Okay. Would you like to do closing remarks, Representative? Oh, no,
just-
we have someone, no, sorry, Representative Daniels. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Dean, I just wondering this, was this funded through HHS before? Or is this a new initiative, or just what, can you explain a little bit how it started?
Well, Madam Chair and Representative Daniels, this was an initiative of the University of Minnesota. And I believe that pretty much all of its funding up to this time it's been part of the University of Minnesota budget. And what we're looking at is saying that somehow we need to get more funding to the research center, and we believe that this is an appropriate way to do that.
Quick follow-up.
Representative Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And why wouldn't it be going through HHS? I'm not sure I understand why it wouldn't. It sounds like everything in the bill is kind of pointed towards mental health and such things. So can you explain why it's not going through HHS for funding?
Representative Dean.
Sure, Madam Chair and Representative Daniels, I believe because this is part of the university, and I don't think we run everything that's connected to HHS that the university does through HHS. It wouldn't be a feasible thing for us to do. So that's why this committee becomes sort of the melting pot or the gumbo pan for the university.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone in our audience who would like to testify on this bill? Okay, Representative Dean, would you like to do closing remarks?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. This may seem like an unusual bill, but it's an important bill, and I think there are times that I've heard many conversations about, we need to make sure that we hold the University of Minnesota accountable. I think that this is one attempt at trying to be sure that the University of Minnesota is doing the work that they put forward as important work, and I want to thank you for your consideration and would hope to have your support.
Well, thank you for being here today, and hearing no further discussion, I'll renew my motion that House File 706 be laid over for possible inclusion in the Higher Education Omnibus Bill. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you. Have a good day. We have Representative Bierman with us today. Welcome to the committee. And I'd like to move House File 2427. I'll move that House File 2427 be laid over for possible inclusion. Welcome to the committee, Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Pleased to present Bill number 2427, which will provide a pathway with financial incentives for concurrent enrollment instructor training. This is due to the looming changes in the Higher Learning Commission's professional qualifications standards for teaching dual enrollment courses and assistance to teachers who need this dual enrollment, the dual enrollment credits is appropriate at this time. Dual credit courses are a valuable attribute of our current high school system. They lead to greater increased participation in CIS, leads to greater numbers of college students, but more importantly, participation at the high school level leads to an increase in graduation rates of college students in every student category. Dual credit courses save individual students and Minnesota families thousands of dollars in tuition costs. To provide us with some more background and details of this program, we have with us today Mr. Joe Nathan.
Welcome to the committee, Mr. Nathan. Would you like to state your name and your organization for the record?
Representative Bernardi and members of the committee, my name is Joe Nathan. I have a master's and a PhD from the University of Minnesota. I direct the Center for School Change. I've worked on the intersection between high school and college for more than 40 years. And thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly in favor of this bill. You might be thinking, well, if this is a bill that affects high school faculty, why is it in the Higher Ed Committee? And the answer is twofold. You have two handouts. The first is this document, which describes the difference in graduation rates here in Minnesota, high school graduation rates. We'll get to college in just a minute, but describes the difference between high school graduation rates for young people who participate in at least one college in the schools or one PSEO course or more. And what it shows, I'm hoping that many of you have this, it is one of the handouts, but in any case, what it shows is that a 20 to 30 point difference in high school graduation rates. So, for example, among African American youngsters who do not participate in dual credit, but overall, in 2012-13, 58% of the African American youngsters graduated in 4 years from Minnesota public high schools. It was 88%. For youngsters who took one PSEO or concurrent enrollment course. And American Indians, 49 versus 88%. For white students, was 85 to 98, and so on. But I understand that this committee is focusing on the attainment goal established by the legislature in 2015, not for high schools, but the attainment goal for the percentage of young people who not only enter but graduate from some form of college or university in this state. And Representative Norris was one of the people who helped establish that attainment goal in 2015. And so I would direct your attention to a second piece of paper, a one-page summary, which is entitled, "Why Are Dual Credit Courses Valuable for Closing Achievement Gaps and Helping All Students?" A report that's cited in the middle of the page, Taking Dual Credit Closes Gaps, found that a University of Minnesota study, and I quote, found that students from low socioeconomic households who took advanced courses did just as well in first term and first year GPAs as students from high SES households who did not take advanced courses. More importantly, and this is this explicit purview of this committee, the study also found that college in the schools and PSEO students tend to graduate at faster rates than students from similar backgrounds who have not participated in these programs. Representative Bernardi and members of the committee, I have no financial incentive whatever to testify in favor of AP, IB, college in the schools, or PSEO. I run an independent organization called the Center for School Change. So I have no financial interest in whether youngsters take AP, IB, college in the schools, or PSEO. What I do have an interest in sharing with you is seeing dramatically increased graduation rates for young people, particularly low and moderate income young people, graduating, not only entering, but graduating from some form of college or university, whether it's a 1, 2, or 4-year program. We have an attainment goal for a very good reason, which is that as the economists, educators, and others look at this state, we're going to need significantly more young people who have not only entered, but graduated from some form of post-secondary education. It's my honor at this point, assuming it's acceptable to the chair, to introduce you to a young man I met 5 years ago, who was at that point from a low-income parent here in St. Paul, who participated in college in the schools. And with your permission, he'd like to tell you briefly about his experience as a college in the school student and what impact it had on his life.
That would be wonderful. Appreciate that.
Hello, everybody.
Well, welcome to the committee. State your
Yes.
name and your and what you do.
Gotcha. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Khalid Rogers. I'm currently at Metro State finishing up a MIS degree. Work for Apple as a technician. Started my own life skills consulting company as well, which objective, it was called Good Riddance, which is, for me, it's to get rid of an unwanted person, place, thing, and mindset. And the objective is to increase a level of expectations in our community. For me, when it comes to post-secondary education and CIS, that was a big change for me in high school. I had met Joe Nathan when I was 17. Shortly after I had taken some CIS classes, a writing course at the U of M in public speaking, and I got all A's in those classes as well. But for me, it helped me envision where I was going to go. Prior to that experience, there wasn't really too much advocating of those classes. In fact, it almost seemed like it was deterrent, like, oh, you probably shouldn't do it, or as if they didn't have faith in the students, as if they could succeed overall. For me, I'm pretty, what do you call that? I'm sure of myself. So if I have a thought process, I like to follow through with it. And I knew I could do it. So I took advantage of the opportunity. I was actually one of the first at Gordon Parks High School to take the class, and I succeeded. Shortly after that, met up with Joe Nathan, and he wanted to interview me about my opportunity. And it went very good. And he said, how about you feel like going around and telling other people about this? And I was like, heck yeah, let's give it a try. And what that did for the schools that I had visited is helped other people see representation as well, and people that looked like them that had succeeded in these classes, and it helped them see that they can do it too. And I think that's a really big thing is when it comes to funding, and not to take away the more opportunities for people that really just need a shot. I think some of the times it could be maybe the teachers put their fears on those students because they may not have seen it before or seen it happen. But I'm here to tell you that it can be done, and it will continue to be done with the help of you guys too. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. We have some members who want to ask questions. Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was wondering if on this one sheet with the gap, if there is a breakout of concurrent, separating out concurrent and PSEO, because PSEO being actually taken at at that setting, there's additional things that student gains, understanding the differences between when you're in high school and in college, the instructors, the interactions, etc. A lot of the habits you have to learn. So when they leave high school, they already have the soft skills or whatever you want to say, and they're less surprised, there's less shock in that. So I think it'd be informative to be able to have that broken out and see just what the delta would be for concurrent. Then I'm also wondering, this would be for the bill author, how many FTE the commissioner already has doing grant work? Because I mean, there's grant work all over the place, in the department. So we're funding 3% of this budget for them to do grant work. Well, don't they already have that in the job description?
And whatever. I just going to tell you, Representative Bierman had to go take a vote in a committee across the hallway, and he will be back for his bill after that vote.
Okay, I had taken my glasses off, so I missed them. Staff might be able to help us understand, because, we'll see in committee a lot of grant things come forward, and I think they come and go. I don't think when they go, we're seeing a lot of decrease in FTEs. So, and I assume that it's a similar process. So it'd be nice to understand what component, how many people they already have working on grants.
Okay, we have someone coming. Ms. Grimes is coming down.
Madam Chair, may I, while we're waiting, could I just
Okay.
respond to the first
Mr.
question
Nathan,
about
sure.
of this? Madam Chair, Representative, the question, I believe, had to do with breaking out the difference between PSEO and college and schools. PSEO is a program, of course, that youngsters can take courses on college campuses or online. College in the Schools, which Khalik did, was a program that is a program that students take courses offered in the high schools. And by the way, Khalik is modest, so he did not tell you that he also is a graduate of the St. Paul College, located about 5 minutes from this room. And he's won a variety of awards. But going specifically to your question, if you look at this sheet, the research summary, what the people at the University of Minnesota found on this one-page sheet is that both college in the schools and PSEO students tended to graduate at the University of Minnesota at faster rates than students from similar backgrounds. So it's both of those programs. In terms of this chart, Commissioner Olson, Minnesota Office of Higher Ed, and I recently met to talk about this and other issues. Commissioner Olson has said that he would like to see an update on this chart. And obviously, you and he have many conversations. So what you might want to do is to reiterate when they do a study on an update of this that you might want to share that you're interested in seeing if there's a breakout between the differences. But as I said, the University of Minnesota study found considerable value to both.
Okay, Ms. Grimes.
Madam Chair, Tricia Grimes from the Office of Higher Education. So I believe the question was the Office of Higher Education's administrative capacity to administer a grant program. Am I correct about that? The Office of Higher Education has a total of 68 FTE staff. 25.5% of them are paid from the general fund. So with 25.5 full-time equivalent staff, we administer all of the state financial aid programs and the various additional programs that the legislature assigns to us. In recent years, there have been no programs dropping off the list, and there have been numerous programs adding onto the list, many of which we did not get administrative funding for. So I think it's fair to say we are stretched pretty thin on administrative funding to administer additional programs. We currently run a program called concurrent enrollment grants, which the purpose for which was to provide grants to increase the number of concurrent enrollment courses that are offered. In the process of administering that program the last 2 years, we discovered that there is, in fact, a huge bottleneck, which is the lack of teachers with the proper credentials to do concurrent enrollment teaching.
Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can try and pursue this off. I'm trying to size the 3% of $3 million, portion of FTEs. What is the amount of work that is usually, this is how many hours, and I was just trying to have an idea of how that worked out, because I'm sure they're very good at it, so they know if we're going to administer X number of funds or grants that we're going to need a person for 10 hours a week for 6 months or however that works out. That's the kind of math I was interested in. It helps us size, the guesstimates, because you'll notice in different places, sometimes they'll say no more than 10%, some will say 3%, and it'd be nice if we actually saw the reasoning behind these numbers and they just weren't selected out of, well, I think I'll put 3.
Okay, so we have Representative Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was reading through your chart. I was very interested in that. The last line there, individuals with disabilities. In the last couple of years, I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of bills to help people with disabilities. And I didn't know if that meant physical or mental or a combination of both, but if maybe you had a way to explain that a little bit for me.
Mr. Nathan.
Madam Chair and Representative, we can get back to you about that. This is a chart prepared by the Minnesota Department of Education and the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities, and I know a fair amount about the chart, but that specific question I don't know the answer to, and I would be glad to get back to you. We could certainly get back to you about that, but again, you might want to mention this to Commissioner Olson, because he is very, very committed, as is the governor, and frankly, people of both parties, to helping us move toward the attainment goal, which is, as many of you know, which is by 2025, 70% of young people between the ages of 25 and 44 will have earned a 1 or 2 year certificate or degree or 4-year degree. And literally no group in this state has attained that at this point.
Thank you. Just one quick
Yes,
question.
Representative Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If this bill doesn't pass and we don't get the funding, what happens then? Where does it, we make it up someplace else, or if you could just explain that a little bit.
Representative Who would like, Mr. Nathan? Okay.
Madam Chair and Representative, I'm always reluctant to predict the future, but what has happened clearly is that we had a magnificent success in collaboration over a number of years with college and the schools. We had literally thousands of young people throughout the state, including youngsters in rural areas, suburban and urban areas, with college and the schools. And for example, there was a shining star in west of Little Falls, where a school district had literally hundreds of youngsters graduating from high school and having a 2-year AA degree. Long Prairie Gray Eagle was the school district. Mounds View is another district that has been doing this for a shorter time. We had literally hundreds of young people graduating from high school and earning a 1 or a 2-year certificate at the same time they graduated from high school, which was win-win-win for the state. And frankly, a lot of high school teachers really like teaching college and the schools courses. And it was something that was helping kids, not only rural, urban, and suburban, but kids of all income levels. In any case, along comes the Higher Learning Commission and says, well, we're going to demand that these teachers have at least a master's in their teaching field or a master's in teaching and 18 additional credits. And there was a lot of controversy, won't go back through that. But what I think the answer to your question is that we're going to have a real bottleneck, to use the word that was just used, because the Rural Education Association, many organizations, including Minnesota State college faculty and administration, are very supportive of college in the schools, but we have this bottleneck where the Higher Learning Commission has demanded that by the fall of 2021 or 22, I'm not sure which, but I apologize, but by that fall, all people teaching these courses have to have a master's degree in that field or master's in teaching. So what will happen is that we'll have fewer of these courses. And one last point about this, one of the things that I personally like about concurrent enrollment, and I have, as I said, no financial interest whatever in concurrent enrollment, AP, IB, or whatever, and our organization doesn't either. But one of the things that I really like about concurrent enrollment is that all of that money stays in the state of Minnesota. And we are literally providing millions of dollars to support advanced placement courses and international baccalaureate courses. And I don't mean to be Minnesota-centric, but literally millions of dollars are going off to New York for the advanced placement program in the College Board, and literally millions have gone off to Switzerland. I'd like to see the college and the schools courses where the money stays here in Minnesota. I'd like to see more of that kind of thing. It is the second largest dual enrollment program in the state, second to advanced placement. And one last point about this. One of the advantages of college in the schools compared to AP or IB, advanced placement or international baccalaureate, and one of the reasons that many high schools and many colleges endorse the program is that not only does the money stay here, which is important, but that the college credit comes down not to 1 day and 1 test, which is how advanced placement works. Doesn't matter how well you do in the class, it depends on how well you do on the last test. And that's not a true college environment, with all due respect to advanced placement. So college in the school says your credit will be dependent on how well you do over the entire semester. And I think that's frankly, this is my own personal value system, I think it's a more valid way of determining whether youngsters have truly earned the credit.
Thank you.
Representative Runbeck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank the author. I think this is a really neat bill. And Mr. Nathan, I remember reading stuff you wrote back in the 90s. Do you have a website or do you blog? I mean, how do I read what you're doing these days?
Mr. Nathan.
Madam Chair, Representative, thank you. I actually write a column for a number of suburban and rural Minnesota newspapers, and I'd be glad to follow up with you. It comes out twice a month. It's in a number of suburban and rural Minnesota newspapers, and our website is centerforschoolchange.org, www.centerforschoolchange.org, and I've written extensively about this and other subjects. Thank you for the question, but that's where you can find it.
And Madam Chair, if I could ask
Representative Runbeck.
Mr. Kalik, so you had mentioned you have a business,
Yes.
and could you tell us what your business is?
Yeah, so Good Riddance Consulting, our whole objective is to build a culture of higher expectations in the community by also having examples of that come to the schools, and I facilitate lesson plans on goal setting, being authentic, also time management, things of that nature. One of our main focuses is how to turn your opportunities or your L's into lessons. So helping people find that they have more power than they think they do by being more self-accountable. And one of the bigger things that I've seen to be more effective working with students is kind of teaching them how to humanize their heroes. having the ability to take them off that pedestal and to see them as they are, and understand that the same attributes and characteristics that you love about those people are things that you have as well. You just have to work on it. And that's one of the bigger focuses. And I've had a lot of success. I've gone to a few high schools in the surrounding St. Paul area. Recently did one at Como High School, 2 class periods. And I'm also going out to Oakland, California, tomorrow morning, actually, to do a presentation out there as well.
Oh, exciting. Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a question for Mr. Rogers, too. I heard that you won a number of awards. Would you like to share your favorite one with us, or that you're most proud of, or?
Let's see. I would have to say the one I'm proud of the most would be, I wouldn't say it was more of an award, but just the ability to be heard. I think that's the biggest thing is, having lack of representation in so many different areas. To me, being able, even this moment is a success to me. I don't need an award for it, but just having ears and people listening is what, to me, matters a lot more. So having opportunities like this, seeing other individuals look up to me as a role model, because there's a big lack of thereof, and that's a success. That's what I'm proud of, and the work still goes on. So I'm excited to see what's in store.
Thank you. And we have our house photographer here, and I think he got a picture of you, but
Yeah.
you may not get an award, but are you able to get a picture of him by changing your camera out? Yeah, we're going to get a picture so that you'll get a picture. So if Representative Bierman can get we got your address. So
Absolutely.
Cool. I don't have anyone else on the list that would like to ask questions. So I actually do have one more question for Mr. Rogers. Do you have any message for this committee? Like, what is there something that you would like to convey to us that we can do that would help make a difference in the lives of young people in attaining their post-secondary education?
Yeah, I would say more or less renovate, try something new, a different approach. That's one of the biggest things that helped change my life is that I had to self-examine myself and see what I was doing that was a part of my own demise that was getting in the way, and to try a different approach. Like that within itself, there was a guy that I met, I think it's Woody Harrison, I forget his name. He was in film industry. And he had told me, he's like, hey, do you know the difference from a scholar and an intellectual? And I was like, kind of, sort of. You guys know the difference?
Will you let us know?
Yeah, so presentation mode, right? Well, the difference is that the scholars are the individuals who are the storytellers. They're the ones that gather the information and share it with individuals. But an intellectual, he gathers the information and figures out how to make a plan and put it into action. And that's something that I always wanted to be that intellectual. We have enough scholars, of course, people that can recite history and tell us about what happened. But where are we going next? That's what I'm focused on, being present and having a better future. So that's what I'll leave you guys with.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question from Representative Nornes.
Madam Chair, not a question.
Okay.
This bill is very familiar. I think I passed one just about like this a few years ago, and it's been working very well up in kind of northwestern Minnesota.
I do remember that you had a pilot program, I
pilot
believe,
program.
right, that I really did want to have expanded across the
Yeah,
state.
and so it's been working very well. In fact, it's still working. And so I think that if possible, we should work on doing this also. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Representative Nornes, for a reminder about that. I do remember that being a good bill as well. Okay, Representative Bierman, would you like to make closing remarks?
I would just like to thank the committee for hearing the bill and the good questions and the good response. And I think this is something that can really help improve our education and take it to where it needs to go in the next step. It's a great plan, and appreciate your support. Thank you.
And thank you. I forgot to ask anyone in the audience, so I had to do that. Does anyone in the audience like to testify on this bill? Okay. With that, thank you very much for being here today, and I will renew my motion that House File 2427 be laid over for possible inclusion in the higher education omnibus bill. The motion passes. Vice Chair Pryor. Hello and welcome to your committee. Would you like to move your bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I would like to move, House File 2366 to be laid over for possible inclusion.
Excellent. So go ahead and begin your testimony.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. So today I have a bill to create or establish hunger-free campuses and to have a designation of a hunger-free campus. So I think we've actually heard already in testimony before today that there's really a national discussion talking about the widespread, very sad situation that a lot of college students right now are going hungry. And in fact, there's been a study that as many as 2 out of 5 college students are experiencing some level of food insecurity. And when you're hungry, you're not the best student. And there's just, and actually I know this because I was on the floor and I was hungry and I was not a good representative. I was not, I was distracted. I wasn't listening as well as I should have been listening. And so I know it's because I was hungry. And I know that students that have food insecurity, that there are times when they should be in class, they should be studying, they should be doing their homework. If they're hungry, they're just not, they're not performing up to the best of their capabilities. So I relate some in this small way to what a lot of students are going to and appreciate that. So this is having a huge impact on success of our college students. This is not new to Minnesota. Some other states have already advanced this, California, New Jersey. New Jersey is working on it. And what this would be is a hunger-free campus. We're doing a few things. We're connecting students to resources. There are students that would qualify for SNAP benefits, but they're finding that they're not being connected to that. And sometimes it's just because of the bureaucracy that they have to get through to get connected to SNAP benefits. And there are other programs that might be benefiting these students that they're not getting connected to. So this designation would say that the campus will work with the students and they'll get connected to those resources. Also, it's going to provide for food pantries on campuses. So there could be food shelves in town, but their campus doesn't have anything. So again, it's a barrier to getting this resource that they need. Also, it would be expanding the emergency assistant grants. And, you know, those of us that were on this committee 2 years ago, last year, we heard about these, the importance of these assistance grants. And it's helping students get over those rough times, those rough patches, and it's that emergency assistance that they need. And then also it's going to create awareness on campus because, you know, people are there to help and there's a lot of resources. There's people that will pitch in and help and stock these food shelves and do all these things, but they don't know what's going on. And it's hard, sometimes it's even hard to ask for help. And I think we can hear some of that story too. So I have some great testifiers that'll be here today, and we'll talk about the importance of addressing this issue and making concrete positive action for solving this problem.
Excellent. And I want to welcome our testifiers to the committee. Whoever wants to start first can state their name and what they do or who they're with. So welcome to the committee.
Madam Chair, member of committee, my name is Obala, and I'm a student at Riverland Community College in Austin. And I'm also the vice president of Leaderman. Leaderman is a statewide student association that represents over 120,000 community and technical college students from every corner of Minnesota. We believe everyone should have the opportunity to achieve their dream through higher education. I'm here today to talk to you about food insecurity on our college campuses and to ask for your support for our Hunger-Free Campus Act. Food insecurity is defined as lacking of money or resources and necessary to have consistent and defendable access to food. It is something our students are facing every day on our college. What does it look like to be food insecure as a college student? It means even though I am working 2 jobs while going to school full-time, I still don't have enough money to pay for food after paying for my school and living expense. At the start of one semester, I remember withdrawing all my money from my saving account to pay for my textbook. My saving account was $1,080. After paying for my books, I was only left with $1.50. From there, I went to cafeteria to get some French fry and some chicken nugget with the change that I was left. To my surprise, it cost $2.50. I only had $1 in my pocket. I look up and cry inside as I walk away from the line. Being food insecure makes me feel bad about myself because it is painful. I feel like I cannot succeed, and that makes me more worried about my future. It makes me feel unworthy because I don't have the energy to do something like my homework. I feel like my teacher will not understand me. It is not that I don't want to do my homework or class assignment, but I can't focus because I was so hungry. I feel like I'm not a good student. And I feel like something is missing. And that is so bad. And unfortunately, the issue of food insecurity isn't isolated to only myself or my school. It is an issue that impacts all our colleges in Minnesota, as well as 10,000 of students across the nation. According to last year, Hope Lab national survey over 43,000 college students, 2 in 5 students report being food insecure. 10 of our colleges have participated in the most recent Hope Lab survey and should be receiving the result this spring. Another national survey found that 55% of food insecure students could not purchase textbooks. 53% missed their courses, and 25% dropped courses due to the impact of hunger. This survey also revealed higher estimate of food insecurity among community college students. The data also showed that food insecurity disproportionately affects students of color. Research also found that food insecurity is correlated with lower grade in college, as there are associations between basic need insecurity and poor self-report physical health, symptom of depression, and higher perceived stress. We as a student cannot do this work alone, and that's why we have introduced the Hunger-Free Campus Act. This bill creates designation for campuses that meet certain criteria and provide grant funding with campus match for them to achieve this designation and address food insecurity. I would like to say a special thank you to Hunger Solution, Second Harvest, and the partner to End Hunger for their amazing support of our work on hunger-free campuses and food insecurity. We believe that creating this destination will help encourage our college to take steps in addressing the challenge of food insecurity on our campuses. The Hunger-Free Act will support our campus that have already taken steps to address the issue of student hunger, while at the same time encouraging this movement on other schools. The bill also connects our campuses and students with public service and community resource. Lastly, the Hunger-Free Campus Act will raise awareness about food insecurity and promote resource sharing to reduce stigma, develop best practice. On behalf of the Minnesota Community and Technical College students, I ask that you support the Hunger-Free Campus Act so that no student go hungry on campus. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Our next testifier, just please say your name for the record and who you're with or what you do.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Brandy Olson. I am a student at Ridgewater College in Hutchinson, and I am the president of our campus's Student Senate. I am here to talk to you about food insecurity and ask for your support in the Hunger-Free Campus Act. When I was a child, both of my biological parents went to the same college that I now currently attend. While they both had jobs and tried to support us the best that they could, it was never enough. I remember frequent trips to the food shelf, every month like clockwork, to the point where growing up, I could tell you what kind of food they had at the food shelf and where it was placed. I could tell you how the chairs were lined up and what kind of questions they would ask on the paperwork that we filled out every month so they could give us the food quicker and get to the next people in line. I remember the way that the EBT card looked like that my mother carried and swiped at the grocery store every time that we went. My mother taught me early on that you had to find the best deals and clip any and all coupons that we could use, buying things in small quantities so we wouldn't waste food or the money spent to buy it. I remember being in the store and learning how to calculate the amount that things would add up to before we hit the register so we wouldn't have to worry about having the card declined and looking as poor as we were. I still to this day will finish any and all food that I get because it is so ingrained in me that I might not get more, even though I am in a stable environment now. Until I was 16, there was never a time that I worried about food, or that I wasn't worried about food or money to pay for food. At 16, I was placed into a better living condition, and only then did I fully understand my situation. It was and is one that is supremely common in my area: food insecurity. When I was younger, I didn't have a word for it. It was just my stomach rumbling and the countdown of how many days until my mom said we could go get more food. Now that I know what it is, and I know that it isn't something that should be normalized, I want to do something. I know that if I miss breakfast or lunch due to classes or meetings, I'll regret it later. My stomach will rumble and I will get a headache and become nauseous. Growing up, I dealt with this often. And even though I do this occasionally now to poor planning, I can understand the effects of someone who doesn't have a choice. Not having food in the house is scary. Leda Men believes that no student should have to go hungry while pursuing their education. This is why Leda Men has spent the past year working on addressing food insecurity on our campuses. When we began raising awareness around the issue last fall, our campuses were stunned by how many students have come forward with their own stories and experiences with food insecurity. Our student leaders have spent the last semester collecting over 600 stories about students' experiences with food insecurity. The following is a summary of what we have learned from our students. Students are having to choose between paying for tuition and textbooks or buying food to feed themselves. Students are skipping classes due to the negative impacts of hunger. Those who do go to class struggle to pay attention. Many are living with shame and anxiety from not being able to provide food for themselves or their families. Students do not know where to get help on campus. For many of our students, their campus pantry is the only steady source of food they have. Unfortunately, many campus pantries are struggling to stay afloat due to the troubles of lack of resources. These reasons showcase a growing issue on our campuses and the need to address food insecurity at a state level. I no longer personally deal with food insecurity, but I know that others do. I believe that no student should feel the effects of food insecurity, whether it's the child of a college student or the student themselves. I know that this is not just a problem on my campus or even my college, but a statewide and even national problem. I ask that you please support the Hunger-Free Campus Act so that no other student has to feel this pain and know these hardships. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify on House File 2366? Okay, Representative Poppy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And obviously, without a doubt, am I not proud of Mr. Obala, who is a student at Riverland Community College, and I've known for the last couple of years. He does such an outstanding job, and he's so active. And to advocate for this with such a personal passion and understanding is just, it's It's wonderful to watch, but it's devastating to hear about, because we certainly know that he and others have had this experience where they've not been able to be adequately fed in order to be able to be good students. And I know Mr. Obala is a really good student, and so he has taken this upon himself and engaged others, and I very much appreciate both of you coming forward today and advocating for this. I think you've done a wonderful job. You have continued to educate a great number of people about this issue. And every step that you take, we are with you. And I appreciate very much that you came today and presented to this committee. And thank you for your work.
Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you, Chair Bernardi. I just want to say thank you also. I do remember you coming to the Food and Agriculture Committee earlier this year and testifying as well. And when you came that day, I shared your story with others, and it has been amazing to me the number of emails that I have received and the conversations from students who've come into my office since that time to raise awareness of their own hunger story. And since we've not met before, I would like to say also to your co-testifier, thank you for sharing your story and the work that you do. Food insecurity is something that no student should ever have to deal with. So I wholeheartedly support your efforts. So thank you very much for coming today and for sharing your stories with us. Thank you.
Representative Rumbeck.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. And it's been a long time since I've been in college, so, it seems like we used to, the joke was you lived on ramen noodles and things like that. So it's a little bit hard to identify with the problem. Obviously, it exists. And the budget that you're proposing is quite nominal, I would say. So I guess the purpose then is to just say we want to start something, we want to start to fund it more each year, or, at what level do we say that, that we're not the answer? That maybe it's a different choice, like, okay, take a year off from school and put some money in the bank so that it's affordable. I mean, it seems like the fallback, being government, is not necessarily the right answer. And where does this program have a cutoff? I'd like to know.
Representative Pryor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative. This is a one-time appropriation, and it's really to be the seed money to start these programs on campuses across the state. And so the maximum that a campus would receive is $8,000 in this grant money. And then as it outlines in the bill, then they would show that they can fulfill all the aspects of being designated a hunger-free campus. And then there's it's the partners in the community, like Second Harvest and local. So the state would be kind of the seed money that gets this started, to recognize, first of all, to create that awareness and saying this is one of the barriers that we have right now for education and for our campuses. And then we as many campuses that can meet the terms of the grant can start these programs and turn it around for the students at those campuses.
Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say this is not an example of big government stepping in to address an issue, not in the least, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, to your point, it's a nominal amount of money. And to me, one of the really important things that's in here is addressing this piece about the 2 million students who qualify for SNAP funding and don't apply. So that's something that already exists out there. It's really about connecting students who are experiencing food insecurity with resources that already exist, not pumping more resources into it, although actually I wish that we would, because I think this is our responsibility to ensure that people who are attending our higher education institutions, that we devote a lot of public resources to, are in a position where they're housed and they're fed and they're ready to be there and learn and do that work. So I guess I'm thankful for this. It's it's really a modest request to address a really serious problem, and I'm really thankful for the voices of the students who came to share with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to mention when I've been visiting college campuses, this is a topic that comes up by the student panels, and they share their story. And I just have to comment on how when I went to school, and I've said this before, the state of Minnesota covered 2/3 of a person's education at a public school, and then student and their family covered 1/3. Well, now the last numbers I just saw from the the Midwest Compact, I represent Northern Minnesota, I'd have to help me, Minnesota Higher Ed Compact, is 56% is covered by the student now and 44% by the state. And it's almost like flip backwards. And, you know, and I know I just said this recently too, but I just have to say, we want our students to get through college as quickly as possible. That's how they keep their student debt down. And I could work a part-time job 3 days a week, and I could go to college, and I could finish on time if I could finish on time or early. But I just don't think this is the kind of environment that we want our students to be in. We want them to be able to focus on their studies. We want them to be able to get through, attain a degree, and not take breaks so that they can afford food to be able to study. So I just had to share the different experience I had and what I hear the experience of students today. Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you, Chair Bernardi. The other thing I would like to say is, you know, all of the costs associated with school have gone up. It's not just the cost of tuition, but also the cost of housing. And I know that salaries have not kept up with the rising cost of housing. And it is a struggle to pay for education and to pay for food and to pay for housing. And I want to acknowledge that for you, that there are those of us who do understand that the cost is not just from lack of want or effort in trying to work and to pay your way, but also the fact that all these other costs are escalating exponentially. But I would like just to quote Norman Borlaug, our Nobel laureate from Minnesota, who said, "Without food, man can at most live a few weeks. Without food, man can at most live but a few weeks. Without it, all other components of social justice are meaningless." So being fed is just a basic need. I salute the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Representative Rombeck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to make a comment. We have, I don't know, 54 higher ed campuses around the state, I believe. You know, so they're within 30 miles of most folks, right, that you're able to commute. And I'm wondering, at Riverland, are you commuting? Are you commuter students or living at home? I mean, or living on campus, I should say.
Mr. Obala.
Madam Chair, Representative, at Riverland, we have we have dormitory at Riverland. I live across the street, paying for my own apartment, but I think a lot of our students lack transportation, even though they live like the other corner of the city. When they come to school, they want to stay there all day and then maybe leave from there to go to work. So they don't have that access transportation going back and forth. So, and we don't have any other options like in a local area.
Okay.
Ms.
Well,
Representative
I
Rombeck.
just seemed that, especially for the campuses within a small community, that you know, that there would be a lot of people who are living at home and just commuting, and so that, you know, I'm interested in understanding the issue a little more, I guess. So thank you.
Representative Vang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to thank the testifiers for your work, and thank you, Representative Pryor, for introducing this bill. I just have a question, wondering if, you know, if students who apply to use emergency assistance, will that affect the amount of student aid as well? I don't know if that's something that
Representative Pryor. I
I
know.
don't know the answer to that.
We have Ms. Grimes coming down to testify on this. I did hear one thing, and maybe confirm this, Ms. Grimes, that people have to put out the money initially and then get reimbursed for it. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but that's one of the issues I heard with that is,
Madam Chair, Tricia Grimes, Office of Higher Education. I'm going to ask Elena DeSalvo, our person who runs the Emergency Assistance Grant Program, to answer that question, if that's all right.
okay, yep. Welcome to the committee, Ms. DeSalvo. Did I get it right?
DeSalvo, yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, are you able to answer the question that Representative Vang, or would you like her to ask it again?
Madam Chair, I'm able to answer the question. So for the Emergency Assistance Grant Program, we like to encourage the higher ed institutions that receive the grant to try to make best judgment accommodations for their students so that those grants don't impact the amount of financial aid they receive in the future. The federal law states that essentially if you receive funding beyond the cost of attendance of a college, that it will impact your financial aid in the future. So we cannot supersede the federal law around that, but the actual institutions can make best judgment decisions around the cost of living of their institution and can modify that if there is wiggle room so that it won't impact the student.
Thank you.
Do we have any other, okay, go ahead, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to share that a student from my district came and visited me, and he was wearing a shirt that was like this one, Hungry for Change. And he just sort of told me a little bit about the challenges that he's facing around food insecurity. And he was living at home with his family, and was attending, I think, MCTC. But he told me that his mother was a single mom. He had siblings, and she said, we have space. You can stay here. He didn't have his own room, but he was staying in the home. But she said, I don't have money to feed you also. And so he told me about buying like a bag of chips at the corner store and cutting it up into 2 portions to sustain him through the day. And so I just say that to kind of speak to your point, Representative Rumbeck, that, the big picture for families in our state, right, is that we have increasing cost of living on every level, stagnating wages over the last 40 years in this country, in part because people fight against minimum wage efforts and against other workplace protections for working class families. And there are folks who are barely managing it, who are barely surviving. If you are making minimum wage in any city in the United States of America, you cannot afford a 1-bedroom apartment. If you're at the lowest economic level, you cannot afford the basic necessities of life. And so it's not reasonable to expect that every individual who attends college has those resources. And so we have to kind of just think about the fact that there are folks in our community who are really struggling to survive. And so I just wanted to put that out there because, his story really impacted me just in the way that I think about this issue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to that point, so having gone to college myself for over a decade, having been a college instructor, there are people that are genuinely struggling through no circumstances of their own. But there are also college students that make poor life decisions. And they might make decisions to spend money, as I did when I was fresh out of high school, maybe on a Trans Am, and didn't put proper prioritization into some of the more important decisions that would help me further my academic career in an efficient manner. And as such, we need to recognize that. And just because somebody is hungry, it could be for no fault of their own, but it also might be the result of a decision that they made in earlier that was not the wisest. Second, we just heard that costs are rising across the state for a multitude of reasons. And there are several bills going through right now in regards to rent on college for student housing. And one of the points that I made, and it was in a different committee, the point that I made is there is in my opinion, a lack of regard given to when government mandates things and takes flexibility away from landlords and puts mandates on there that increases the risk for landlords and housing. And when the landlord has increased risk, their only option when government has placed mandates is to respond with increasing the cost. And I implored the members of that committee, please understand the vote you're about to take is one of those that adds ever incrementally that pushes the cost of student housing up. And so we have to understand that government has a direct influence in some of the costs that are indeed rising across the state, which makes it more difficult for college students to live. But we need to understand that there's a relationship here between government mandates that are imposed and then rising costs. And so if government's creating a problem or contributing to a problem, government being the answer isn't always the best, but instead to look at what the root cause of some of these increased costs are. So I just throw that out there since that was mentioned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at this form, I'm just trying to get some sizing clarity, et cetera. It says 25% of students dropped courses due to hunger. What percent of students drop courses as a total population? And if you don't have that data, it'd be nice to understand. And then what type of period it was across the year. It was in the U.S., it was in Minnesota, it was in private colleges, was it in public? You know, be able to better size some of the issues. I see you've got 2 out of 5, which I assume is somewhere between 35 to 45% of students are food insecure, and 55% of Pell recipients experience food insecurity. So that there's, you know, a little bit of difference between those two populations. It'd be nice to understand the definition of either occurrence, periodicity, and to what extent are they all using the same definition of food insecurity. And this is a type of stuff you could maybe pass on to the committee, because we will be, you know, possible inclusion means that we'll have a larger bill. 55% food insecure students did not purchase a textbook. I guess it's because of the cost of textbooks, a lot of students are either tag teaming, they're not buying a textbook, but someone else they know in class buys it, and you sort of, so I'd like to have that size as to what percentage difference between, you know, using the same criteria for the general student population. The 53% students missed classes. What percent for that same period was there perfect attendance? In other words, what is the difference between the general population and the subgroup that you're doing for the 53%? And then you've got 2 million students who qualify for SNAP in 2016 did not apply. What is the total that qualified? You know, if 3 million qualified, that's a, you know, a huge thing. If it's 20 million qualified, it's still an issue, but it gives some perspective to it. You know, back when I was going to school and living out of my car, I probably qualified, I never knew about it. So in here you're improving the knowledge of what's accessible, and that's a good thing. I'm just trying to be able to understand, you know, what are the deltas.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Grimes.
Much of this data is based on a highly rigorous stratified random sample by a professor named Sarah Goldrick-Robb, who is at Temple University, formerly of the University of Wisconsin. The definitions of food insecurity are the FDA definitions of food insecurity. The same definition was used in all the campuses where data was collected.
Madam Chair, can we actually get what the definition is? And it's great to reference to that. And then if also she's referencing, you know, the studies and they're footnoted in the sources in the bottom, but it'd be nice to understand, is this Minnesota, is it all private, is it all colleges? Some of those criteria so we can better understand, because when we do the general bill, we'll know whether we want to give more or less and how it interacts with the different bills that'll be in that omnibus.
Madam Chair, I know it was a multi-state study. I am not sure if there was data on students at Minnesota institutions. I know there was data on students at Wisconsin institutions.
So, Madam Chair, I'm just trying to get a better picture, and especially since it didn't look as if it was specifically in our Minnesota campuses. It doesn't take away that we've got an issue. It just adds appropriate perspective and quantification to the materials that are being distributed. It's a really nice presentation graphic. You know me, I like the data and the rest of the story. Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Madam Chair.
Right.
I apologize, I'm a little below the weather and not at 100%.
No, that's fine. And Representative Quam, I know you like take deeper dives. I'm wondering if you would want to be a person on this committee that would talk with the library or something, try to get these studies and look at them a little bit more to like share what you learn from it. I think if that's something that you're interested in.
Madam Chair, I am interested in so many different things. If I was a feline, curiosity would kill me. But if it would be useful and it fits in my bandwidth, I would find it very enjoyable to dig in and be able to better understand so that we can more effectively, cover the needs in the most appropriate manner.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Grimes.
We do have information that 10 of Minnesota State's two-year colleges did participate in the survey that these results are based on.
Okay. Thank you. Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I just kind of want to go back to this discussion about housing and about the bad choices maybe that students make, and I really want us to just be aware and thoughtful about kind of putting our own experiences onto people who are coming in front of us to share their stories with us. I think that the reality is that this isn't the taxes committee, right? That was this morning. But we talk in there a lot about this larger trend in our economy, which is that wages have not kept up with inflation, period, let alone with the cost of living increases that we've seen beyond inflation. So the state minimum wage in Minnesota is $9.85 an hour. If you're working a 2,080-hour work week or work year, that's $20,000 a year, just above it. That's basically poverty, living in poverty. And as I said, you cannot afford a place to live and food to feed your family if you're making those kind of wages. So this isn't a result of bad choices that individual students have made. This is a result of decisions that have been made by people who are sitting in the positions that we're sitting. Decisions to give corporations and the wealthy tax cuts and divest from resources that contribute to the public good, like higher education, like K-12 education, like healthcare. So I just, this is about where our values are, and I just want us to be really careful that we are not disrespecting people who are coming to us and telling us about their kind of personal and sensitive challenges that they're experiencing trying to navigate systems to get the really basic things that they need to have a good life for themselves and their families, and that we not impose our own experiences on them. You know, because I can just tell you that that student who came to my office and talked to me about how he was splitting his bag of potato chips into an AM and a PM bag, he didn't have a Trans Am or a Grand Am or whatever it was. That wasn't the situation that we were looking at. The situation that we were looking at there was likely like generational poverty, okay? It was that his mother didn't, not that she didn't want to, not that she wasn't a good person, not that she was any less deserving than any of the rest of us who have the ability to feed our kids, whether they're in K-12 education or in college. Of course she wanted to do that. Of course she did. What parent doesn't want to do that for their kid, you know? But she didn't have the resources that she needed to do that for her son. And so that's the situation. It wasn't because he made bad choices, and it wasn't because she made bad choices. It was because, as I said, it was because we have made decisions, policymakers have made decisions, all right, about who wins and who loses in our economy. And what they have decided, and you only need to look at 40 years of data on wealth and income inequality in this country, what they have decided is that the rich and corporations win and the rest of us lose. Thank you very much.
Representative Hoppe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of comments. One is, this isn't just at the state colleges, the public colleges. There are private college students who also are pursuing efforts to actually increase awareness and address food insecurity. So I want to make it clear that it's students in higher education throughout, and that means that it's also people throughout Minnesota that are addressing this. And just to speak to the bill, actually, because we're not solving the hunger problems here. We're not solving food insecurity. So some of the questions, I think, are a little bit, you know, the deep dive is maybe not quite as necessary, because what we're doing is allowing students who have come forward and said, this is a personal issue for me, but I know it's an issue for many other fellow students. I'd like to be able to have, to establish the Hunger Free Campus Act, which will continue to raise awareness, increase partnerships, designate their campus as a hunger-free designated zone so that their students can have access to resources. And so, you know, I think we can, you know, allow these students to be able to do what they are doing, which is to advocate and educate. They have the issues. They're coming to us saying, we'd like to be able to provide greater awareness to this issue, and they'd like some minute amount of money in order to be able to do that. So I, again, appreciate that the students came forward and have told us their personal stories, because that's extremely, you know, that's so personal for you to share that with us. That's so touching that you are willing to do that and put yourselves out there to do that. And so I very much appreciate that you've done that, and I appreciate what you're doing with this bill. And I thank you again for coming.
Representative Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to belabor this, but I think I just want to strike maybe a middle tone here a little bit. I remember my youngest son, when he was in college, telling me that he and his friends used to scout out all the local church suppers. And that brought me to an awareness that they, you know, that they were looking for something to eat. And it's not that we didn't help them out, but that's just what they did. I applaud the idea of holding this up and letting people know that this is an issue, because it is. And we have different diverse populations on campuses, and they might not be entirely familiar with food shelves and things that are available to them in the community. So what I read in this bill is that part of this is tying students to the community resources that are already there, and just making sure that they're aware of those. And I think, you know, I hear Representative Lucero, because what he's saying here, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that we just have to be careful that we don't start creating a huge infrastructure around this that has the adverse impact of actually increasing the cost of tuition, because now we have more people employed on campus and, you know, more support services. I like the idea that it's really simple, and it's a marketing effort, and it's raising awareness. Just, we always need to be careful when we're trying to do good, that we're not increasing the cost of education. So I think that's kind of what I'm hearing, is that we think we're developing a big program. I don't see that. I'm hoping we're not developing a big program. We're just raising awareness. Thank you. Oh, can I ask a question?
Sure, Representative Lehman.
I forgot I was supposed to ask a question.
I'll let you, yeah,
Madam
the
Chair.
last on the list, and then we'll wrap up with your question. Go
Okay,
ahead.
just great. I'm just wondering, because I've read so much about this and about food shelves on campuses and so on. Do you have any idea how many campuses are doing something already?
Mr. Obala.
Madam Chair, my voice is that time now where students go hungry more. So right now we have around 20 campuses that have food pantry or something like food shelf, but we have 48 campuses around the state of Minnesota. And some of our students, when we travel there, they're like, we need this, please. We have it in another campus, why not here? And we're like, we're fighting for you guys. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Pryor, would you like to do closing comments?
Thank you, Chair Bernardi, and thank you, members, for the discussion, for the questions. Thank you so much to the testifiers. And just to echo what you've heard from these other committee members, I hope you also comes from me too, that we deeply appreciate that you came here today. And I know, I mean, that's not an easy thing to come to St. Paul and to find time with all the other commitments that you have to come to us and tell us the story and be the voice for many other students that share the same situation that you have. And I just have to say too, this is Minnesota today. Austin, Minnesota is where I grew up, and it's not the same as when I grew up, even though the apartments were there. They're the same apartments, sorry. Across from we called it the junior college. And so, you know, this is my hometown, and it's forever changed, and it's forever changed for the better. And that's Minnesota in the future, because this is Minnesota growing. This is Minnesota getting educated. This is Minnesota reaching for a better life and working for it. And we know that there's certain things that have to be in place to be successful. And one of it is that you need nourishment. You need food. And that if you're in your mind, if you are insecure, and insecurity is a baseline emotion, right? We understand that. This isn't the higher level emotions about acquiring knowledge. This is a baseline emotion, which is a feeling insecure and feeling literally the pains of hunger. So this isn't, and this is not going to solve the hunger problem on campuses. This bill does not do that. But this bill does, though, is it raises the awareness of this issue, and it says that, you know, campuses are going to be out there, students are out there, they're ready to take on this responsibility, but they like to know that we're behind them. So thank you for coming forward with this idea, and we appreciate your time. Thank you. And I would like to move my bill for possible inclusion.
Okay, so Vice Chair Pryor will renew your motion that House File 2366 be laid over for possible inclusion in the Higher Education Omnibus Bill. The motion passes. Okay, and we are adjourned.